Hey there, I'm Janelle Schalk, and October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. You know, Trace3's Cybersecurity Solutions team is celebrating, so we're bringing you a special episode of Secure Correspondence with several of my Trace3 colleagues, joining for a fun and informative discussion. So let's get started. First, we're going to talk with Brian Kissinger and Kyle about generative AI. Hey there, you two. We've been hearing nonstop about Gen AI, and every product on the market talks about how they're using AI capabilities. What are the top three things that you all feel are realistic for executives and security leaders to be doing in the next 12 months or so related to Gen AI? We'll kick it off with Brian.
Yeah, well, I think the good news is that most of our security manufacturing partners have been starting to bake in AI capabilities over the last few years. So if you're using a modern endpoint solution, a modern firewall, a modern SIM, you're probably already taking advantage of some of these AI capabilities. But what I'm really excited about is we have a tremendous gap in security staffing and capabilities in a lot of industries. And so I think as this technology gets even more capable and more automated, you're going to be able to see some of those jobs that were routine and manual taken over by this technology. And so it's an opportunity to use technology to solve a longstanding problem in our industry.
Kyle?
Yeah, I think it's sometimes hard to kind of look at this big problem and go, where do I start? And I think it's important for organizations, one to create some type of governance solution or process, right, to make sure that they're looking at the technology and saying, look, let's put some guardrails around this so that users know how to leverage it and when to leverage it and maybe more importantly when not to leverage it, right? But I think the other thing is to make sure that you create some type of focus group, tiger team, whatever you want to call it, to say, look, let's focus on maybe some big initiatives that we can use this technology for to really advance our business proposition, right? How can we help the business with this technology, and really keep the staff involved so that they know that it's not something that they can't touch AI, right? In fact, we want them to be involved and we want them to kind of be at the forefront. I think those are two really, really big keys that I think we can do with our people to guide them, stop them from making some big mistakes, but also encourage them to make some really meaningful progress. And I think lastly, we want to make sure that we aren't doing this alone. We want to look to our big OEMs, our big technology partners, let them do a lot of that heavy lifting. They're baking in that AI technology into the tools we already use. That's going to be the easy button, right? So leverage that when it's available and when it's appropriate.
I love it. Great opportunity for elevating our skill sets, having a strategic focus, and utilizing the amazing skill sets that live in other organizations that are providing those technologies. Thank you, Brian and Kyle.
Thank you.
Thank you. For my next question, I'll go to Gina and Joe.
Hey, Janelle. Hey, Joe.
As quantum computing advances, there's all these concern about its potential for breaking existing encryption methods. We all know that that's pretty much coming and already is here. And it's going to lead to this post-quantum cryptography era. So how are you all seeing customers planning around this threat? And is this coming faster than you expected it to? Gina?
Ooh, isn't that the million-dollar question, Janelle? Shockingly, in the past week, and I don't know if it's because it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month or what, but I've either heard conference talks or talking to different clients 4 times on quantum. So people are thinking about it, talking about it. It's in the news, and there are aspects to the collection of encrypted data for potential either nation states or organized crime groups for breaking that encryption level and being able to access all of that really rich data. So like, what should customers do? How should we advise? Definitely go to conferences and listen to some of the experts. But internally, we have to think about setting up organizations who should have a seat at the table, invest in either management consulting or finding different groups to consult with, and think about what your encryption levels look like. Think about that post-quantum encryption, and maybe run pilot programs to ensure that you have the system flexibility and that infrastructure to build on what the future looks like in the race to kind of safeguard our digital future. It's exciting times. Also very noisy, but
Very noisy, yes, but definitely exciting. Joe?
Echoing what Gina just mentioned, you need to have a person designated within the company that's going to own this, build a plan, know what you have. And this is beyond just encryption communication. This is data at rest. This is internal process calls within operating systems. This is going to affect everything long term. So you can't just roll it out everywhere. You need to have a phased, prioritized plan, lab testing, and we have current new drafts for newer versions of TLS, X509. So existing technologies, just upgrades, as well as brand new FIPS encryptions, 203, 204, 205. But again, you need to be able to test this in a lab and have a phased rollout approach. Just think about how difficult it's been to roll TLS 1.3 out. This is much bigger, much larger scope. So you now have somebody that is designated in charge and have a phased plan.
I love that.
I love it. Thank you both so much. I'm going to keep Gina and bring Kyle back for our next question. A recent state of cloud security report came out in like the last couple of days, and it really says an alarming 75% of respondents were extremely or very concerned about cloud security. They don't feel like they're utilizing real-time threat detection capabilities well, and that their security tooling might not be unified in a cohesive approach and be strategic. These are all top concerns clearly for many of our clients and others out there in the security space, but I'm curious what's keeping you two up at night in cybersecurity these days?
Kyle, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Sure.
With
You know,
Kyle.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of a back to basics guy, right? So as we look at a lot of the emerging threats that are out there, we can kind of harken back to 25 years ago when we were talking about things like asset management, configuration management, vulnerability and patch management, right? So whether we're talking about on-premise systems or cloud systems, a lot of like the things that we can do are very similar. The tooling may change, the connectedness of our systems, may change, right? Which adversely impacts or scales up kind of the impact, right? That those types of threats could have. But what really keeps me up at night, and maybe staying on the AI theme, right, is that we spend as an industry $200 billion trying to protect our data. And yet we still have massive ransomware, issues, massive cybersecurity incidents, right? So obviously, something's wrong with our strategy here, right? We're not doing all that we can, and that's with all those tools. And as we start seeing more Gen AI coming out, right? A lot of those things are slower for the enterprise to adopt, but they're really fast for attackers to adopt, right? And so people are having success with phishing attacks. Even with like Nigerian prince type emails, right? What happens when those threat actors are using really comprehensive, really complex, phishing campaigns that are really targeted, well drafted? We can't rely on things like, grammatical errors and things like that, right? And so those types of things are really scary to me. And that really means that we need to do a lot better in terms of end user education about these platforms, about the threats, and about really how we can be, solid, cyber citizens.
I love it. Gina?
Well said, Kyle. Well said. I love the brilliance in the basics, especially because there's just so much noise. And sadly, that Nigerian prince still won't marry me, Kyle. I just don't understand.
I've got like 6 in my back pocket, Gina. I can give you
good.
one.
Thanks, Janelle.
Retirement plan.
That's right.
For me, a lot of times it's I feel like I can't get out to enough organizations to talk about cybersecurity and cybersecurity strategy and think about what's coming next. And thinking about, a lot of us on this call have a hospital cybersecurity background, and then thinking about like the future of IoT and device. And I think we're going to see more attributed death to, ransomware attacks and IoT and cybersecurity at hospitals. And when we think about our duties as cybersecurity practitioners, our first, duty is to protect human life. Regardless
Absolutely.
if it's data and other types of things, the end of the day, it's human life that is our first duty to protect. So when we
Yeah.
think about that, I feel like I'm not getting enough to help organizations with their cybersecurity strategy, because I'm afraid of what's coming next, because there's just so much noise. We were just talking about quantum. Kyle and Brian were talking about AI, and it's scary out there. And so, how do we work together? Because we are better together. So, we love our customers. We want to be a trusted partner, and so we work with our OEMs, and we're partners with them. And we have this great community to rely on. And so, thinking about the future, it's about us leaning in. So, thanks, Janelle. Great question.
I love it. All of those things are absolutely top of mind, keep me up sometimes too. So I'm going to keep Gina, you here for one more question. Say bye to Kyle for now and bring back Joe. And I love, Gina, that you were talking about IoT, because that's what our next question is about. So what are the top, well, yeah. Also, I remember from my CISSP exam that personal life is always going to trump everything else. If the building's on fire, get the people out, worry about your data later. So I love that you mentioned that, and I absolutely agree. There is a lot going on right now that is actively and has the possibility of really significantly impacting people's lives. So let's talk a little bit more about IoT. What are cybersecurity posture clients and customers? What are they talking about around IoT? Joe, we'll start with you.
Number one is just understanding what you have. Many people say, oh, we think we have like 2,000, and then running a discovery, all of a sudden turns out you have nearly 10 times that. Because a lot of these things are set it and forget it. They've been running over in a corner, collecting dust, doing what they're supposed to do. So there's one aspect of just the asset inventory and lifecycle management for this. And then separately, a difficult issue is your unmanaged devices. They're limited. You can't put controls natively on them, typically. But there's also a diamond in the rough there. They're very, very specific functions that these have. In most of the IoT things we're talking about, like PLCs and then a power plant or a CT scanner in a hospital, these have a very limited specific job that they do every day. And although you can't do much with them directly, indirectly from a network, monitoring and profiling the asset, that allows us a unique opportunity to do anomaly detection. So implementing proper monitoring and alerting tuned with a profile and a baseline for that asset allows a very interesting piece of security to give you a true anomalous detection. This thing's been running for 4 years. It only does A, B, and C.
Yeah.
As soon as it does something outside of that, send the alarms, do isolation from a network perspective, have people go run over and grab it.
Yeah, I love that, Joe, and could not agree more. Gina, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So I love having just amazing practitioners and true experts. Joe kind of lived and breathed this in a past life. We have some great IoT experts in our East Majors, as well as in our Tola, Texas region. And so we've been kind of building out in a way like a world tour, going out and thinking about how we're conducting risk assessments. Tola's been doing this for a while, but doing this kind of at a larger scale at a national level. How are we thinking about it from an observability? Like Joe said, most of the time people do not know where their assets are completely. They don't even realize, what they have. And most companies haven't even truly defined what an asset is at their company. They still
Right.
have it defined as a phone and a laptop and a desktop, and haven't really even taken it down to the API level or the IoT or OT level. So it's really actually thinking about holistically from a programmatic and a governance aspect of IoT. And when we're thinking about the future and we're thinking about the transportation and manufacturing and oil and gas and hospitals, these will be a window for attackers. And so it has to be top of mind, from a technical testing to a programmatic to an observability to absolutely when we're thinking about the behavior of that device and how we're going to isolate it if and when it does, bad things to the network. So
Yeah.
it's top of mind for a lot of clients right now.
I love it. Thank you both so much.
Yes.
I always think back every time I'm thinking about IoT is back to that compromised fish tank thermometer that let the bad guys in and they took down a whole bunch of stuff. We won't say where that was, but I always think about that, and I think about the hospitals with all the IOMT, those medical devices, and how we can protect those. So thank you. Asset discovery, really knowing what you got. Great stuff. Thank you both. So I'm going to bring on Kyle and Brian so that we can talk about everybody's favorite topic, budgets. So, what determinations are important to you when you're making tool or technology or solution or services decisions with budgets in mind? And what do you see our clients doing?
Well,
Brian.
yeah, I'll start. And I thought you forgot about me, Janelle. So I'm glad to be back. Uh, you can't secure everything, right? So I think the most important thing is to get in alignment with your senior leadership team, your audit committee, your board of directors, and be very transparent about what you feel the highest risks are, what kind of technology and process and team you need to reduce those risks. And you have to pick off, sometimes you take a lowest hanging fruit approach where something is low dollar, low effort. Hey, go knock that out. Other things are maybe multi-year, very expensive initiatives that are going to require a lot of investment. And so I think for me as a CISO, when I was out in corporate America, I always had a mix of those things because I didn't want to just tackle, really lengthy, long projects that cost a lot of money. There were a lot of things you could do very quickly and very inexpensively to reduce risk while you're tackling those big things. But the number one thing I say is get alignment on that game plan and then measure yourself against that game plan over time.
I love it. Kyle?
Yeah, I've always had unlimited budgets, so it's really never been a concern for me.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Yeah. I think what's really top of mind for a lot of our clients, and I certainly, see this, is kind of the best of breed versus, best of suite, conversation. I think, as technology matures, the capabilities almost normalize a little bit, at least in some of our tech stack, right? So some of our tools, maybe in year one, the delta between them and the rest of the pack is huge and it's meaningful, and we need to go with that best of breed approach. But over time, sometimes that delta shrinks, right? And it may not be, kind of worth that premium that we're paying. And so I think, to Brian's point, we need to look at kind of where our priorities are, and maybe pick those kind of best of breed technologies that make the most sense to protect our most critical assets, or that make the most sense for us. But at the same time, we need to take a look at kind of our holistic security suite and figure out, are we making the most of what we have, and can we utilize it more? So we're doing a lot with our clients, like tools rationalizations, really taking a look at that. We find that a lot of clients have kind of a massive amount of technology that maybe they didn't even know they had, that they could tap into and maybe get 80% of their, of their need covered.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a big conversation today, that a lot of our clients are having, and could really be very significant, both from a budget savings perspective, as well as just an operational efficiency. If you had fewer tools, people could be masters of those. Whereas if you have a ton of tools, it's really hard to be an expert in all of them. So I think it's really important to take a look at what you've got and see if you can maximize your efficiency.
Absolutely. Great thoughts. Thank you so much, both of you. Kyle, I'll say bye for now. Keep Brian on and bring Joe back. And for our next question, so I routinely hear from CISOs, our clients, and other CISOs, and other security professionals that we can have all the controls in the world, but we need users to take security seriously, and that each of us has to have constant vigilance. Kyle brought up this on a couple of questions ago around how that really is the foundation for security. And it's hard for even us as security professionals. You know, these things are getting very, very good. And I'm hearing a lot like, what can we possibly be doing more? We do the training, we do these different things, but it's not quite sticking in the way that we want to. So, given that evolving nature of cybersecurity threats, always changing, how should we how should user education really adapt to effectively educate users and mitigate risks that are based on users?
All right, I'll get us started. It's amazing to me that 80% or more of the successful attacks are user based,
Yeah.
and based on either a negligent user, a distracted user, or someone who wants to do something wrong. But yet we spend typically less than 1% of our IT budget on security training. So I was very proud of the fact that when I first got into the healthcare security business, I think I was one of the first CISOs to actually dedicate budget and have full-time resources focused on cybersecurity training for the organization. So I think focus and dedication is the first thing. Second thing is make it fun and make it engaging, for your employees. I used to do a cybersecurity fair every year where our entire information security floor was turned into kind of like a showcase, and
Hmm.
different rooms and conference rooms and offices were used to talk about different parts of cybersecurity. And we gave away t-shirts and we gave away stickers. And so making it fun, doing videos, it's for a lot of users, security people are looked at as like the police within the organization, and we don't want to be looked at that way. So if you make it fun, make it engaging, dedicate time and resources to it, I think you can make it stick, make it be more effective.
Awesome. Joe, what are your thoughts?
Focus on the primary attack vectors, email phishing, social engineering, and tailor the training to your organization. If you're using G Suite, have the video and the training reflect G Suite or Outlook or whatever it may be. Also, incentivize the users to do reporting. For every suspicious email somebody
Mm.
reports, give them a $5 gift card and just let it keep accruing.
Ooh.
Hit,
Yeah, let's
hey,
do that.
if it hits a high impact like a ransomware or a major business email compromise was averted, give them $100. Like this, get your users to start being an extension of the security team. So you get ones that are doing this, this will make an impact. I'm telling you.
That's fantastic. I love that idea, Joe. Brian, let's start doing it.
I was just saying,
Um,
people are going to be sitting at their desks all day sending phishing emails,
that's
and
right.
they might make more
They'll,
money than they're getting paid, but that's okay.
they'll create their own and send it
Yeah.
to themselves. I love the idea though. And we talk about developer training too. Like they are users. They have to understand security when they're developing new applications. And I love the idea of making things really interesting and engaging rather than just watching a video once a year, right? So great ideas. Thank you both so much. Joe will say bye for now. And Brian, I got one last question to wrap up our discussion today. How have hiring practices for cybersecurity professionals changed to attract and retain talent with the skills needed to really address these emerging threats and challenges? Like we can't just do the exact same thing for 40 years as part of our professions anymore.
Yeah, it's exciting to see that most universities, most grad schools are offering formal education in cybersecurity. You're old like me, you had to learn it through some handed down book and on the job training. But nowadays, there is some education around it, and there's non-traditional education that's happening too. You don't have to go to a 4-year school to be, really knowledgeable about what's happening in the cybersecurity space. I think we have to be creative. We haven't traditionally, as an industry, had a lot of internship programs or non-traditional hiring practices. We at Trace3 have invested very heavily in our internship program, and also working with specialized groups, especially around diversity. Like, we are very active in hiring veterans and women in technology, and trying to have as diversified a workforce as possible, because these are the folks that are out there. They're passionate. They're learning, cybersecurity principles. I think that, you have to also look to hire people that have drive and passion for the industry. Not many people, pop out of college or pop out of high school and know everything there is to know about security. You have to be willing to take some chances on people that, are what I call athletes, that, you can teach them anything. And we have a number of those, here at Trace3, that people that joined actually our cybersecurity practice with very little knowledge and have been learning over the past 6, 12, 18 months. And now they're full on cybersecurity consultants. So be creative, and be diversified in your hiring practices.
Yeah, and that mentorship. I know we do a lot of mentoring with our interns as well, and it's been a really great program. Well, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much to all of you for joining me on this special episode of Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I do want to tease 2024 Cybersecurity Awareness Month. We're going to have a lot of great activities going on. We're going to do a capture the flag. We're going to do more of these types of panels and a lot more. So keep it in your mind, pencil it in for next year. And to everyone out there, stay safe and have a wonderful Halloween ahead.